Hey guys, back with some more Bazaar. This will be my Dooley guide video. Been having a lot of fun with him, been grinding with him a lot recently. He's been my go-to in ranked. It seems like I like making these videos when I've been playing the character a lot. So I feel like I've played a sufficient amount of Dooley recently, obviously with the tech stuff before the nerf, and then recently with this self-scaling core and dinos. There's a lot of decent builds out there at the minute. So this will just be, a guide video. We'll go over some build archetypes. We'll go over how to play the early game and stuff like that. Early, mid, late game, etc, etc. So first things first, what is Dooley about? Dooley, unlike the other characters, doesn't really care too much about seeing big numbers necessarily at the start of the fight, like Pig. We don't have that value scaling. We don't have these massive cards, this massive value. What Dooley cares about more than any other character is just going as fast as possible. Not necessarily at the start of the fight, but once that combo gets going, what Dooley is about is all about charge. It's all about making it super quick. And that's what we see with a lot of his core items. With a lot of his items is we see this charge reference. There's a lot of charge items on Dooley. That's kind of his shtick. Is charge, and that's what you want to aim for with him. Obviously a really key part of Dooley is his cores, so I'll give a brief explanation of each one, and then I'll start going over some build archetypes, or at least some good recent builds that I find to be really useful, as well as some key items in those builds. So first things first, we have the armored core. I don't think this is great. This isn't a great option, I don't think. I'll go through my favorites at the end, but I'll just explain each one. So this is a shield one. So we use any item to the left, we charge this 1 second. You'll see a similar theme through the rest of the cores. There are some that are dissimilar, but in most of them, this is what you'll see, is when you use an item to the left, you charge it. Cooldowns, it starts at silver. You gain these at level 3, all of your cores. Starts at 7 seconds, goes down to 6 at gold, and then down to 5 at diamond. There are ways to reduce this more, and it's relatively easy to get it lower. So armored core, it's all about shielding, obviously. So it shields itself, and then on cast, it gains a certain amount of shield, and it also gives shield items to the right of it more shield for the fight. So we can see here 20, 30, and then we get a big power spike here at 60. So, 1.5 to 2 times. We see some great scaling at diamond. I still don't think this is great. This is probably something that I would never pick at the minute, at least. As of, the 24th of the 6th, not amazing. Companion core is similar in the fact that I probably wouldn't pick it. However, it's, a little bit more interesting, I think, than armored core. It's a bit more of a specific, rather than shield items. This is all about friends. And obviously each core has a theme. This one is friends. So when we use a friend, we charge it, and then on cast, we haste adjacent items for a certain amount. We can see here, 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds at its relative level, and then 2, 3, 4. This is decent when we're running a friend build, but in all honesty, it gets outclassed by things like DJ Robot or whatever they're called now. It's not amazing. It's not bad to start. Like if you're running something like a power drill, it can give you a little bit of charge, but it's not phenomenal. Critical core is one of the better ones. It's pretty good. It used to be meta back when old railgun was very, very prevalent before the nerfs. So what we see here is 765 on its cooldown per level. It deals a flat amount of damage, so the damage itself doesn't scale. But what we see here is that at each level, so the core itself and items to the right get crit chance. So what this means is that if we have weapons to the right of this and we gain enough crit eventually, what we're effectively doing is we double the damage of those weapons to the right. And when we crit, we also charge the core, which allows for a really quick combination. Obviously, when we haven't reached that crit chance yet, we can still put items to the left of it and just rely on it itself to do damage. It's a great natural weapon scaler. So instead of manually scaling your weapon's damage using something like, I don't know, like a weapon, is it a weaponized ray? The ray that gives damage. Like, you know, putting damage on weapons using a sharpening stone or whatever, you know, skills that give you weapons damage. This is effectively, we just gain crit chance and we find a really intuitive way to just gain, you know, more damage on our weapons. I think it's a good option. Right now there are definitely better ones, and more consistent options, but this is really good in something like a weapons build on Dooley, which you don't see super often, weapons tech stuff anymore, but it can be good. This is my favorite, Ignition Core. This is 100% my favorite. I think it's the best self-scaling core, which is a build archetype that we'll be talking about. 765, pretty standard, cool, like, you know, cooldown reduction per level. We burn for 4 at base. And then, you know, on usage, we gain burn on the Ignition Core and burn items to the right. Pretty straightforward. I love this core just because of the nature of burn. It is, you know, it does damage over time and it stacks. So it's a great like way of naturally scaling your damage without having to actively use items on your board. So even if you get some kind of interference, you're still doing something. You're still doing damage. Obviously, it can get a little bit tricky when they have a lot of cleanse, but you know, when they have a lot of heal, that's especially relevant for weapons builds, is that they can just heal through it anyway. So I think I prefer something like this. I like something with this, you know, naturally scales damage, and it's, you know, we can get it down to a really low cooldown as well. Definitely my number one core. Primal Core is a little bit more niche. I think when dinos were easier to find, because obviously Mamasaur is a gold now, and B, better. This was great, and dinosaurs are still good. Don't get me wrong, but they used to be like overpowered, and you know that's why they got nerfed. So Primal Core, I'll talk about build archetypes afterwards. I can't get distracted. Primal Core 765, pretty standard from what we've seen. Deals 30 damage at base, and now rather than that, you know, left item and we give item, you know, items to the right, damage or whatever, instead we give our dinosaur and relic weapons damage for the fight. Now what it does is it gives adjacent items a relic tag, so obviously if we have some really quick items adjacent, it gains a relic tag, it charges it, and then when we use another dinosaur or relic, we charge it. So pretty straightforward. We get some nice quick items next to it, they gain the relic tag, maybe they're already relics, but we want to be charging this, we want to be giving it damage, and the important thing is that it has the dinosaur core, which which is obviously really important in a dinosaur build. We the dinosaur tag we want on like a lot of our items. So next one is the core. I think this one, it's not necessarily a high skill ceiling, but it is a little bit trickier to maneuver. It can be really good in particular builds. I think it's definitely a great option, but it's not necessarily consistent. You can do better by taking a more consistent option like the Ignition Core, like the Weaponized Core, which we're about to talk about. It is an amazing item, especially when we get it down to a really low cooldown. It can be like absolutely ballistic. You can create some crazy infinites. Obviously, slightly lower cooldown. 654 deals 50 damage. Sure, it's a weapon, and we charge all items to the right. So you can see what we're kind of going for here is that we have a ton of quick items to the left. We have some items to the right. And we're making those items with high impact on the right of the core go quicker because we get to charge it, which I think is it's a great concept. It can be tricky to pull off sometimes, but it is a really interesting to run. Move on to Weaponized Core. This is probably my second favorite at the minute. I just really like these self-scaling archetypes. It's very consistent. So Weaponized Core, what's it about? It's just damage. It's pure damage. So 765 on its cooldown, same as what we've seen for most of them. 20 damage at base, so a little bit lower than some of the other cores that we've seen at base. However, this and weapons to the right gain 20, 30, 60 damage for the fight. When we use any item to the left, we charge the Weaponized Core. It's similar to the others, right? Like we're scaling damage. We are Obviously, giving an item to the right of it damage as well. So if we have something like, another small tech item or a really quick weapon to the right, or even an item with obsidian enchant on it, so we get to effectively double the scaling put on that weapon, it can be really, really effective. I'll mention it quickly and I will talk about this, but a particularly good archetype is getting a proboscis nice and early. Let's say we see mosquito on day 2. You put it to the right of this thing, we get something like a plasminate or something that does a lot of slow, and all of a sudden we have an amazing way to scale the proboscis's damage along with really, really rapid charge on the actual on the actual core. Like, we're gonna have some quick items to the left, so that's not an issue, and we're just gonna have damage on that proboscis. I just quickly wanted to mention scrap metal. I think it's relevant in all the core builds. So obviously it's an item that we can buy that just lets us upgrade the core. And if we enchant it, we do get to enchant the core with said enchantment. However, if we get it to diamond, it is available at gold at base. If we get it to diamond, we also get to reduce the core's cooldown by 1 second. So when we look at, honestly, all of our cores, especially something like the core, we can get the cooldown really low. You can get multiple of these. There's not really a limit to how many you can get. You can keep finding these when you get into the late game. Gets really interesting. I just wanted to briefly mention this one. All of the cores are usable. They're all usable. They're all relevant in particular builds. There are definitely some that are better than others. Ignition core is my personal favorite. And then we have the core, which I think is a really interesting one. And then weaponized core is another really strong option as well. So now we'll move on to build archetypes. We'll talk about some different builds right now that are particularly strong. And then we'll just kind of go over all the builds in general, and give a brief overview of a lot of the stuff that you can do on Dooley as well. So we'll just have a quick look at that now. All right, so the first build we're going to talk about is this self-scaling core build, which is very, very consistent. It's it's not very, very easy to do, but there are a lot of ways to do it, and there are different options. So I'm going to be using ignition core and weaponized core as an example, and I have a lot of example items here, and I'll talk about each item's relevance. Obviously, these aren't all the items. Every single item in the game probably has relevance to this build in some way or another. But I want to go through these builds and talk about the actual, relevance of this stuff. So first things first, probably the most overtuned item at the moment is the plasma grenade. So we burn both players 10 and we slow all enemy items. And as we level it up, we get more ammo. Obviously, we combine these with something like something that relies on slow. And even without those things that rely on slow or get charged from slow, it's already a phenomenal item. We slow every single item on our enemy's board. Like, it's amazing. And then we look at the enchants. Turbo, we haste all of our items for 5 seconds. Icy, we freeze all enemy items for 2 seconds. These two are probably the best. They are absolutely phenomenal. Deadly is also pretty great. We give our items crit chance for the fight. So obviously, it's really overtuned at the moment. It's very, very strong. It works in both of these builds. So I'll when I talk about the items, I'll reference the core in which it's relevant or more relevant to, and then I'll talk about how it works in that build. So how this works is with something like Power Drill, and we'll pivot into this right now. When we haste, slow, freeze, or poison, we charge it. So the whole goal of this is to make this go really quick, right? And the whole goal of these is to make these and the items to the left go nice and quickly. So Power Drill is a great way to do that. Combined with something like a plasma grenade, if we get some of the good enchants on it, the Power Drill starts to go really quickly. So it becomes super, super relevant. That's kind of what we use it for. The damage is useful, especially with something like Ignition Core, where we want to be getting rid of shield. Power Drill can be a really useful asset in that. Okay, so crew tools. Obviously, if we only have one tech item, these are both tech. Most cores are tech. So crew tools is extremely relevant. We just basically get to take a second off of our core. And our whole build is based around the core and making it go fast. So taking a second off, extremely relevant. And we get it to that low cooldown, and all of a sudden it's a small item that goes extremely fast. Now the enchants don't really matter, admittedly. What we're using it for is that second reduction on both of our cores up here. And then we'll move to maybe the most broken combination in this build, which is crude tools, and then we have 3D printer. So what this does is, obviously, crude tools, we only want one tech item. And 3D printer is a tech item, so it doesn't really work at the start. But then what happens is, if we don't have any other tech items on our board, and we have a core, and all of a sudden we have 5 crude tools, our core goes down to a second. So we basically have an infinite core, because crude tools going off to the left charges it. Obviously, it gives it 1 second to charge, and it also counts as an activation. So as soon as the crude tools start popping, it's going to go extremely, extremely quickly. And now the enchants, don't really matter too much, but this is an extremely broken combination, and it kind of leads into the tech archetype as well, which I will talk about in the future. But I want to talk about friends quickly. Friends are another way to make our cores go really fast. The whole goal of this is to make our cores go quickly, right? So we want to put a lot of quick items to the left. And friends is a great way to do this. So I've got Blue Beetle here as an example. A slightly better example would probably be the green bug, like the poisonous bug, or red beetle, or whatever it's called, firefly, because they activate off slow. And, in most of our builds, we're going to be running a plasma grenade. So that's really great to charge those items. But yeah, so when we combine, a lot of bugs that charge off of each other, they go nice and quickly, and then we have, let's say, a DJ circuit breaker, DJ robot, where we get a lot of haste activations. Maybe we have a power drill as well somehow. Not really talking about board placement, but this is more theory crafting and telling you how we're looking at these builds. So extremely, extremely good is having Blue Beetle. Now, DJ Circuit Breaker is similar. Like, we have friends and we just make our friends go faster. It's really just an enabler for that. Talking about that friend archetype, making that core go faster. Now, Metronome, it is... no Dooley build really feels complete without a Metronome. It's been such a core item for Dooley, and it has been unchanged for so long. It counts as haste procs. It makes, we have a quick item on one side and we have a slow item on the other, and all of a sudden that slow item is going a lot faster. A great combination is with an Uzi, a 2-second item that goes nice and quickly, and we give the adjacent item on the other side haste really, really quickly. An amazing item. Reiterate again, the whole point with this is to make Ignition Core, make Weaponized Core go really quickly. So Metronome enables that. Fiber optics as well. So I'll talk briefly about the tech archetype. It's more for weaponized core, because a lot of these tech items are weapons, so it makes a bit more sense just to stack a whole bunch of damage. It does work on Ignition Core. I think some of the other archetypes work a little bit better. The fiber optics, obviously, if we have a nice quick item to the left and our core all the way to the right, we're going to be giving it a bunch more charge. So when we use our leftmost item, we charge our rightmost item. And a lot of this tech stuff, it works off of going quickly. We have Arc Blaster, which relies on tech items going off to gain charge. And then we have, let's say, Chris Army Knife, which is a small tech item that's cool that can get as low as 3 seconds. So yeah, what we're really looking for is just nice quick items, and the tech archetype enables that. So far, we've got friend archetypes that enables going quickly. We've got Power Drill and Plasma, which enables going quickly. Crude Tools, which enables going quickly. It's all about going as fast as possible on Dooley. Hamlet is a great example. We run it with a Plasminade, get a bunch of slow, get this Hamlet charge, because when we slow, we charge this 8-second item 2 seconds. So, we're getting a lot of charge on that from Plasma Grenade. That's all there really is to it. It's a nice quick item. So, Omega Ray. Obviously, this is only relevant for Ignition Core, really. It's just a nice bonus for the burn. if it's at maybe at a slightly lower level, I like to just stick this on and get a slightly more scaling on my ignition core. I think when we get to this 8 burn level at diamond, it gets a lot less relevant because we're only really getting 1.5 times, and it feels a lot better at the start. But again, it does give us more damage. Obviously, it's quite a slow item, so it doesn't really enable us going nice and quickly, but it is decent. So we've talked about how to enable these cores to go really quickly. So some different ways that we can kind of upgrade these. I want to talk about thrusters and dino saddle quickly. This will be in the example run at the end of this, where we pivot into this eventually. So we have a thrusters, we have a dino saddle. We can just give our core multicast, man. And that, because it relies on use, scale this item, scale the core and things to the right, it doubles the scaling. It doubles the scaling. It's really, really good. So thrusters obviously giving the item to the left gives it the vehicle type. Dino saddle gives our vehicles multicast. It is very, very good. Very strong. If you get the right enchants on this, which I will talk about right now, it's very, very good. However, before we talk about this, I want to talk about Proboscis. So Proboscis on Weaponized Core specifically is amazing. I talked about it briefly in the first part of the video. Plasma Grenade is going to be on almost every single build that you run with these self-scaling core builds. And obviously, it's a lot of slow. And, Proboscis, when he's slow, you deal damage. So, stick it to the right of this weaponized core, and all of a sudden, we have a lot of quick items to the left, giving our weaponized core and our Proboscis damage. So we're going to be dealing a shit ton of damage, excuse my French. So, with those kind of bonuses out of the way, there are some items I haven't covered. I think it's more about the archetypes and finding synergies. These are a lot of the key items, and a couple of items that I would include in the archetype of things like Tech and Friends. There are better options for each one, and obviously it's specific to each build. So let's talk about some enchants on both of these and what I think are probably the best. So let's go to Ignition Core first. There are kind of two different lines you want to go down. It's either defense, so we're looking at shield or restorative, or it's really obsidian. Now I'd say typically obsidian is easy to find, especially with the inclusion of the Temple Expedition event. We just get more damage relatively easily. It feels quite easy to find this obsidian enchant now. And then we have what I think are the slightly better options, because we already have so much passive damage from the burn, is shielded and restorative. Personally, restorative is my favorite because of the cleanse, but shielded is another great option. So essentially, we just get to scale our damage with burn, and we get to scale our defense, because it's 10 times the item's burn, and we get a ton of scaling. So these enchants are really important. Weaponized Core is mostly similar. We can do shield, we can do restorative, but if we get something like a Proboscis, it's the enchant. Most likely, if we get one of these, it's probably going to go on that, because it's going to be used more frequently than the Weaponized Core. However, Obsidian, obviously another great line if we just want to go full aggro, basically, and just do as much damage as possible. So that's the self-scaling, core builds. There are obviously other cores you can do it on, maybe Armored Core in very, very niche circumstances. I think these two are really great, and this is probably my favorite build at the moment. It feels not easy, but it does feel very rewarding, and it feels reliable to get your core, and yeah, the cores just feel like they're in a really good spot right now. So we'll get on to the next archetype, which is Freeze Dooley. Alright, so Dooley Freeze, this one is a little bit less complex. We just want as much freeze as possible, and that is relatively easy to explain. So we'll just go through a couple of different options, and usually the center of this build is a nitrogen hammer. We get a lot of scaling from this, and we get a lot of charge. So it's a relatively quick item as long as we have a lot of freeze. And it's like, can be really good when we get good high rolls on it. So we'll go through a couple of these freeze items, just talk about them. Isochoric Freezer, it's relatively quickly. We do get to freeze one item for a long time, which is good. Ice 9000 is useless. Don't worry about that one. Beta Ray is a decent one, because if we can make, get multiple rays or, have a core on deck, we can get some really good charge. Blue Beetle, if we do have some friends and we have some adjacent poison, we do get a lot of charge on Blue Beetle. We can get a lot of freeze because it obviously freezes multiple items. And the more items we freeze, the more procs we have of freeze, which means the Nitrogen Hammer gets to get more charge. So the more amount of freeze is more important than freezing one item for longer on Isochoric Freezer. Coolant is definitely one of the better ones. We get to freeze multiple items for a second every 5, and we also cleanse half of our burn. Cryosphere is a little bit trickier. You do get to freeze every item after 10 seconds that isn't the core, so it can be really, really great on Nitrogen Hammer. It's a little bit funky to play. Pierre Conditioner is a little bit less relevant. It's like maybe you run, all the bugs and you have Pierre Conditioner somehow. It can be played, it can be possible, but it's not super relevant to a build like this. So Z-Shield is okay. It's one item every 4 seconds, which isn't as great as some of the other options here, like Coolant, even Isochoric Freezer, Beta Ray, Blue Beetle, they're all better. These ones, we're not worried about these guys. These aren't relevant to our freeze build. We're talking about a build centered around Nitrogen Hammer because it's a really strong archetype. And it's an archetype that I see, often. And I try to pivot towards actively if like my self-scaling core build isn't working out. So, another one, 3D printer. Again, we duplicate coolants. We duplicate the beta rays. Obviously using other rays charges it. Then we have Blue Beetle as well. We can duplicate all of these small items and we get a ton of freeze for Nitrogen Hammer. Great archetype. So I'll quickly, a really big high roll, if we do manage to make it to the Temple Expedition event, is Null Frost Avatar, like Altar. This item combined with the Nitrogen Hammer is maybe one of the best combinations in the game. It's up there with the really quick keg builds at the moment. So when any player uses an item, you freeze it. It seems similar to an iceberg, right? However, it seems similar to an iceberg, except it also counts for our own items. So if we have quick items on board with a Nitro Hammer, we all of a sudden get a lot more freeze. Besides that, when any item gains freeze, we also remove freeze. So the freeze doesn't actually inhibit anymore. So what this is all about is just making this Null Frost Altar, get as much freeze as possible, and then it just charges the hell out of a Nitro Hammer. Now this is a great option if we want to just, do as much freeze as quick as possible and not worry about inhibiting our enemy. But if we want to have some of that inhibition, some great options that are a little bit harder to find, something like Stopwatch. So we freeze both players' items, all of them. Every 11 seconds, we freeze all items. And then another one that is obviously great is Sapphire. We get more freeze duration on our items, so we get to inhibit our enemy's items a lot more. Iceberg as well. We'll just steal that from down here. Obviously great, because when our enemy uses an item, we just get to freeze it. Great for the Nitro Hammer. We get some charge. Frost Root Champion. It's a scary fight. This is the sort of thing that we're building towards. There's lots of freeze. Frost Root Champion. They've got the right idea. Frost Potion is slightly less relevant because it's hard to get reload on Dooley, and hard to get more ammo skills as well. Snowflake is pretty great. If you can get it, it's quite hard to find. And if we're running something like the Null Frost Avatar, then our freeze duration actually doesn't matter. It's just all about the amount of freeze procs that we get. Obviously a lot quicker than the soul scaling core builds. This is that's the freeze build. It's just a bunch of freeze stuff. Obviously Plasma Grenade is actually still really good here because the freeze enchant for it is freeze all enemy small items every 6 seconds for 2 seconds. So that can be really, really good if you get that. And now, because of the enchant changes, there's no more random enchant. You can't pick the artist anymore. It becomes really funky. Like you can get the freeze enchant at level 10 at sudden death. You can get freeze. So it becomes a little bit bizarre, for lack of better words. The Bazaar is a crazy place. So that's a freeze archetype on Dooley. And now we'll talk about dinos, which will be the last one I talk about. I think these three are probably the best at the minute. So, dinosaurs. It's honestly another pretty straightforward build. We're not worried about palanquin. I just did a search for dinosaur. So, what does this build look like? How do we play this as well? So typically dinosaur and tanky anki are pretty easy to find and pick up in the early game because they're, bronze items, and bronze large items are pretty easy to find. There's only 3 of them. You can only get forklift, railgun, and tanky anki. And then what we're looking for is our meta scaling. Meta scaling meaning that we permanently gain damage on our weapons thanks to items like Dinosaur. So when we destroy an item, our dinosaurs permanently gain damage. It's the other same thing with Mamasaur. Much, much harder to find, but we deal 200 damage every 10 seconds. We're not really worried about the damage. It's more about the scaling. We destroy an item. When we destroy an item, our dinosaurs permanently gain 20 and 40 damage. So we start combining these, and all of a sudden we've got 2 destroys, and then we also have 60 damage gained on each one. So that's 120 damage if we destroy 2 items permanently on our dinosaurs. Rex-Specs is another great option. We get to destroy a lot of items with it. And Trollosaur as well. We get to destroy a small item guaranteed, basically, when they fall below half health. So that's our meta scaling. That's how we get that with this destroy mechanic. But what items do we really want to be putting that damage on? So things like Trollosaur, it has a burn enchant built in. Dinosaur, Mamasaur, they're a bit slow. These aren't things that we necessarily want to have on our board at the end of the day in a PvP fight. It can get a little bit dicey because they're so slow. They obviously do a lot of damage, but they take forever to activate. So first and foremost, our main damage dealer, Dinosaur. It's a 6-second item, however, if we have 4 other dinosaurs, tools, or relics, not necessarily exclusive to each type. You can have 4 of any of these. It goes down to 3 seconds. A 3-second small dinosaur item that gets this meta scaling. It can get pretty crazy as long as we find that meta scaling, relatively early. Primal Core is okay. If we start the scaling on it early, it can be really good. It obviously gets charged, so it's relatively quick. But there are better options. So, Rex-Specs, obviously we get destruction. Mamasaur, we get destruction here. Dinosaur, Trollosaur, we get destruction. Now we start talking about Dino Disguise, and what are some weapons we'd want to run with this, and what are some really fun things that we can do. So Dino Disguise obviously being, we give the adjacent items a dinosaur type. So when we think of, cards like Uzi, very, very quick ammo item, we can get a ton of damage on that. Even sometimes we can find a shiny Fang or even a regular Fang. This is another great option. We just want a nice, quick, small weapon, basically, next to this. Nice and early. Let's get the scaling going. Let's get that meta scaling. And that's the archetype. So we've figured out kind of how to get our damage. I'll briefly mention a really fun mechanic. And I'll also explain Tanky Anki and their role at the same time. So there's this item called Wrist Warrior. So Wrist Warrior, when the item to the left of the shields, we deal damage. This doesn't matter. We don't really care about that function. We more care about this. So what we can do is we put a Dino Disguise on the right of this item on our board, on the right of Wrist Warrior, so it gains the dinosaur type. And then what we do is we go to Tanky Anki, which is a dino, and now when one of our dinosaurs deals damage, we gain that much shield. And when it says gain that much shield, what it really means is that Tanky Anki shields us for that much. So what that means is that when we use a dinosaur, we shield. We've given Wrist Warrior the dinosaur tag, and it does damage when we shield, or when the left item shields. So we create an infinite loop, basically a passive infinite, where as soon as a dinosaur item activates, it goes infinitely. It doesn't stop. It just keeps doing damage. It keeps shielding. It keeps doing damage. It keeps shielding, and it just repeats that, and it just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going and going. So really fun thing. Also explains how Tanky Yankee works. It's just a bunch of defense. So obviously we have this meta scaling with our dinosaur items. And basically, Tanky Yankee, obviously it's a large item, but when one of our dinosaurs actually does damage, we just gain shield. It's great defense. That's the dinosaur archetype. That's the last build archetype we'll be discussing. So now we've discussed this freeze build. We've discussed this dino build, and we've discussed the self-scaling core builds, which are kind of the main ones that I want to cover because I think they are the great Dooley builds at the moment. So now we will have a look at some examples of each board and discuss how they interact, just so we gain a little bit of a better understanding of how they really will work. And for all of my visual learners out there, we actually get to see what happens really and how these items interact. So our first build will be dinos from Kia Boy. Like we were talking about metascaling, but what we have here is kind of a hybrid example. So we have Rex Specs, which destroys items, and then we have Tanky Yankee, which does shield, and then we have the Primal Core with no damage. So we're not focusing on scaling these items' damage, but what we have been doing is we've been scaling the hell out of a Trollosaur. So this is our meta scaling in this. And this is, it's really that simple. Like they have some good skills to complement this. Like they have crit chance in a lot of these skills. And but these these items here are more just enablers. Trollosaur is the one putting in the hard work here. Obviously, Rex Specs gets to destroy items, so that's their meta scaler. That's where they get all that damage on the Trollosaur. But, all of their damage is going to be coming from this stupid looking guy over here. That's where their damage is going to be coming from. So that's the Dino build. There are other examples. This is a decent one. It's not necessarily got the dinosaur and a lot of other great options. It's probably not the the biggest high roll of a build, but it's a dino build. Let's have a look at a different one. So Harpus with another one. 10 gold. This is our freeze archetype. So remember how I was talking about Pierre Conditioner before? He can be useful in certain cases, and this is one of them. So we have Robotics Factory with slow, which is slightly less relevant, but it matters because obviously it's a ton of slow to put in our enemies. But double damage on an Obsidian Nitro Hammer. It's diamond as well. We're getting a ton of scaling, and then we have adjacent poison items that are super quick, charging this unfortunately silver blue beetle. And then we have a Pierre Conditioner. When we use a friend, we charge the Pierre Conditioner. So we're basically churning out a bunch of freeze from the Blue Beetle from Pierre Conditioner. And that's it. And then we just get damage on this guy. This guy also freezes as well. This is a more interesting one. This is more of like a friends-based freeze build. I was talking about that one. There are other archetypes as well, but this is just one of them. This is the example I choose to show. Now let's have a look at this self-scaling core stuff. So, Brisbofer, remember how I was talking about the crude tools and the 3D printer? This is the, best weapon core. It's really, really good. So the weaponized core, it'll be going all the way down to 1 second, and when any of these items to the left go off at all, it'll instantly deal damage with this guy. Obviously, crit isn't the best enchant, but we have a high roll of a yo-yo as well, which is also phenomenal. So we just have a lot of really, reasonably quick items. Because these guys, this is a 3-second cooldown. Obviously, this guy takes 4 seconds to go off, but after that, we have 4 3-second small items. 3, sorry. 4 total. Just makes the weaponized core go nice and fast. So this is when I'm talking about self-scaling core builds. This isn't our plasma grenade archetype where we're going to be running it in every build. This is obviously a little bit different, but we have something that's almost as good as proboscis, which is a core that goes off on every single item used to the left. And then we have a yo-yo, which basically goes off on every single use of the weaponized core as well. So that's our self-scaling core build. Very, very fun archetype. I love playing this one. So now we'll just have a brief look at Dooley's expansions so far. I just want to kind of explain what they are and what they're about. We've already had a look at some builds that, use items from that expansion. But I just thought I'd give, a brief overview on what they are. So, we were talking about bugs. And this is the Dualtron expansion. So we have Black Spider. Slow an item for 1 second when adjacent item poisons or burns, charges 1 second. Then we have Green Wasp and Red Firefly. So Green Wasp, when adjacent item slows or freezes, charges 1 second. Red Firefly, when adjacent item hastes or slows 1 second. So you start seeing the pattern here. Then we have Yellow Mantis, when adjacent item burns, we charges 1 second. It also hastes. Blue Beetle, we freeze an item when adjacent item poisons. You can see the order, right? Yellow Mantis is all the way to the right. Then we have a Red Firefly. Then we have Black Spider in the middle. Green Wasp to the left of that, Blue Beetle all the way to the left. And so the idea of this build originally, which was really strong and did plague the game for a while, is we have a Dualtron. This is a massive item that deals a lot of damage, and when we haste, slow, poison, freeze, or burn, we charge it. Now with Diamond, the damage doubles, and the charge doubles. So we use it a lot quicker, and we also get 100 shield when we use a friend. So, absolutely amazing, obviously. Especially with these guys that proc so well off of each other, it goes extremely fast. Satcom, at the start of each day, we get a small friend from any hero. It can be these guys, it can be any small friend from any hero. Z-Sword and Z-Shield are a little bit less relevant. They're great tech items that can reduce cooldown. I found myself using Z-Sword in a lot of railgun builds when that was really great. So, deals damage, shields, freezes, burns. Adjacent items cooldown have reduction, and then if we have a large item, Z-Shield and Z-Sword, they gain multicast if we have a large item. Then we have maybe the most interesting one of the bunch, which is Dualtron Mainframe. So when we use a friend, we charge the core 1 second and haste a large item 1 second. Your Dualtron has the core type. So let's think about this board. We have all the bugs in their order. We have a Dualtron, and then we have a Dualtron Mainframe. And we have this nigh infinite combo where we have all of these guys charging off of each other, and every time any one of them goes off, we charge Dualtron an extra second on top of the procs it's already getting from each of these items. And then we also haste, so it's getting another proc. So it goes very, very quickly. That's the Dualtron expansion. Let's talk about Primal Dooley. We talked about dinos, so I won't go over this super extensively. Dinosaur, look at the tags. It's brilliant. It does everything. Temporal Navigator, it's another similar sort of, start of each day you get an item. It's slightly more interesting because obviously we can get some good haste from it with a relatively low cooldown. If it's our only tech item on the board, it gets cooldown reduced, and we haste adjacent items. And at the start of each day, we get a relic from any hero. We talked about Tank Yankee. When we use a dinosaur, we get shield. Crew Tools we talked about, charges a tech item, and if we have one tech item, its cooldown is reduced by 1 second. Flintstones we haven't talked about. It's a small tool relic. We burn 2 for each relic or tool we have, and its cooldown gets increased for 1 by each tech item we have. Not amazing. 6 second cooldown. Primal Core we've talked about. Dino Disguise, so adjacent items are dinosaurs. Very, very funky. It can create some really interesting stuff. Trollasaur we've talked about. When we destroy an item, it gains damage. Not all of our dinos. Dino Saddle, we have talked about this one as well. It gives our vehicles multicast. And if we have a dinosaur, Dino Saddle becomes a vehicle. Which doesn't impact the game a lot, giving Dino Saddle multicast, but it is, it's an extra proc. Then we have Rex Specs, which is when our enemy has more items, we destroy one of those items. And it deals damage. It gets cooldown reduction for each adjacent dinosaur or relic, and when we use another friend dinosaur or relic, it gains damage for the fight. those are both of the expansions. So now that we have discussed that, we're going to move on to what I think is the meta board, and we'll just discuss that for a second. I think, for me personally, it's the self-scaling core stuff. I think it's the most reliable to do. I think there's a lot of different combinations that just makes it work. And I find that I have the most success with it. All of the builds are great. And when you get a high roll on one particular build, it's going to beat the other builds. I think the self-scaling core builds are probably the best right now. So that's what I think. The meta's in a pretty balanced spot though. So, it is really a rock, paper, scissors situation where all these builds kind of counter each other in a sort of intuitive way. So it's not unbalanced, it's not super strong. It just feels good because it's reliable. The core is reliable. So what do we talk about now? Now we get into actually playing the game. We're going to, run through our self-scaling core build as an example. We can see how we play the early game. And what this is about, this is literally, I recorded a run right before this. It isn't necessarily the most amazing run you'll ever see. It's not going to have all the high rolls in the world. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to do a run where I explained every decision I made first and foremost. And then what I also did is it isn't, it's not a way to generate 10 wins, but it is a way to get a relatively high win rate going. It feels intuitive, and as long as you make the right decisions, most of the time, you can get a pretty good win rate. So without further ado, let's get into that game. Hey guys, back with some more Bazaar, and this will probably be a run for Dooley. I want to make a Dooley guide. I like making guides for the characters. I like making informative content. Seems to be a little bit of a niche. Now, for Dooley, I love picking enchanted item recently. I found that with Dooley, you want to win early. So why not take something like this? Now, I like heavy battery. Gives me a extra proc of some kind if I want to run something like a drill. Shield of First Aid isn't bad either, but I don't see a First Aid staying long on the board, and I don't see Arc Blaster staying long either. So I'll go heavy battery. And the thing that we're kind of trying to do at the moment is we're building self-scaling core stuff. That has really been this season in a little bit of a nutshell, at least the later part, post Dino meta, post Mac meta, post all this stuff. That's what has been good, and that's what we want to run. We go Kyber Drone here. I think this guy, especially since you run so much slow on Dooley at the moment with things like Plasma Grenade, very, very good encounter. Alright, Kyber Drone done. And we're not mad at cooldown. Probably would have preferred something else, We do like trained. We go items here. We do need to fill our board, so we need a bunch of stuff. Both of these are great items. We love Uzi, we love Hamlet. Not really searching for shield stuff. Take a laser pistol. Crypto doesn't really fit. I want to save my money for the next shot, just in case we see some good stuff. Definitely take left-handed. Damage skill early on is phenomenal. We are kind of forced to take medium items here. Now, medium items on Dooley aren't great. What you're typically looking for is something like, put you in here. Well, actually, do we put you in here? I don't think so. I think we want to put you here. What you typically are looking for on something like this is, drill. Drill isn't bad especially when you're playing Plasma Grenade and stuff like that. We will come in here, though. I'll re-roll here quickly, because we do have some stuff we can sell. I'm thinking Chem Snail over Pulse Rifle. I just think it might be slightly better. Now, Medkit doesn't seem relevant. We can sell Insect Wing, but I kind of don't want to put it on any of these. So we'll sell Medkit in order to get Pulse Rifle. And now Pulse Rifle, it's got more casts than an Uzi, so we will put it in here. And we'll keep that like that. Okay, cool. So we've got a pretty solid, damaging build. I did say I'd take the Chem Snail, wouldn't I? Why did I take Pulse Rifle? Anyway. I mean, in hindsight, it's probably a better decision. I mean, 90 damage every 5 seconds is pretty good for day one. I guess we'll wait and see though. Fallen Wes, what am I looking at? Copper Ed, Pulse Rifle, not as much damage as us. I'm thinking we're okay. They don't heal either, so they're not getting healthy jolt stuff. The poison will stack up eventually, but I think we have enough damage to put them away before the poison does anything super effective. Yeah, we got more than enough damage. Alright. Yeah, so this is the build that I've kind of been running in ranked recently, and I have just hit rank like 350 or something. So for me, it's an all-time high. I don't think I'm the best Bazaar player by any means. I'm not terrible, but I'm not amazing. There are a lot of people who are a lot better than me, and I try and take their advice, so that's why I feel like I can bring you a guide like this. Now, we're not going to be running property, so you aren't useful to us at all. I think we'll come to weapons. Weapons are useful. We do want to see weapons. Don't think we'll take a pulse rifle upgrade, but we will re-roll quickly. Don't think I want to upgrade Hamlet either, though. I don't think I'm that interested in that. Rocket launcher isn't bad. Don't really want to sell anything to get it, though.
My weapons have been tested in battle. Have you?
Covetous Thief is pretty good with pulse rifle, but Coconut Crab, it's like a 25% chance to just have 20% more HP. So I think this is typically the better option. What we do want to see, and I will say this now, is we want to see Mosquito. Because getting a chance at that Proboscis, it doesn't guarantee a 10 win. But if you get a weaponized core and you get a Proboscis, you get a Plasminade, you get all the slow pieces you need, you have a really easy way to scale Proboscis, and it all of a sudden, so yeah, so we can see here Plasma Grenade, this is the item we're going to be playing. We're not going to re-roll here, we're not going to take Laser Pistol either. We're kind of looking for Ignition Core, I think, here, probably the best option. So typically my best two cores, I think, are probably Ignition and Weaponized. My favorite, I think, is Ignition. At the minute, in terms of like these self-scaling builds that we're doing, definitely my favorite. So what we want to do here, I think, is we definitely want to keep you on board, and we're going to do something like this. But now you aren't our only friend, so I think maybe we take Hamlet out and put Uzi back in. Does that seem okay? I think that seems great. Well, not great, but fine. Pulse Rifle is quick enough to get Ignition Core charging nice and quickly. Obviously, if we do get... another key part of this build is typically Dig Tools, or whatever it's called. It's the relic tool that decreases the tech item cooldown by 1, as long as it's a really tech item. Tiny Furry Monster, we do like skills. Come in here and pick one. Rightmost, I don't know if Final Flame matters that much, because we're going to be scaling this a ton anyway. So let's go Fiery. I think I'd rather spread it across the board, you know, show the whole board some love. Okay, Vanessa is a little scary. I don't think there's anything we change. I think maybe we just sell the Cinders and chuck it on the core. And honestly, 3% cooldown. Ignition Core or Plasma Grenade? I think we're going to be using our Bronze Tier upgrade on the Plasma Grenade. Just getting an extra ammo on it is kind of crazy. I think I want to use it on Plasminade. What we'd love to see is a battery upgrade as well. Because that means at 4 seconds we just get Plasma Grenade to go off instantly. Because we get 2 seconds to charge. Now hopefully at the time of recording this, after I do this, I'm going to be making the guide. We will see how we go. Well, that's a lot of shield. Where did you get that from? Hard shell. I don't think it's a hard shell diff. I think we would have lost either way. Obsidian Zoacid is pretty nasty. Especially with trained. That's a real nice build they got going on. I do have a timer on for making a lot of okonomiyaki recently. Some Japanese pancakes. I've been liking them. I chopped up a lot of cabbage. I bought too much, so I have to use it all. Now, Quicksilver is decent, but it is very expensive. We are searching for small and medium items. I think we'll just come to Finn's Big Bite, get some free HP. We want to save some of our money for chocolates today as well. Yeah, I mean, Ayla's decent. There aren't really a lot of weapons that we're searching for, though. So we'll come here, and we're gonna get the more expensive ones. Now, Venomander is never going on the board, I think. Well, actually, Washy Bird is never. And neither is Seashell, but we do need to sell something else, so we'll sell Seashell. Get the good stuff. Get the premium chocolate bars. We should beat you. There's no point in us holding on to these. I mean, we could wait for a bargain, but we're gonna need to make space for our reward here, probably. Best get, rigged, Temple Expedition ticket. I mean, typically, you want to take this fight every time when you see it. It's such a good fight. Yeah, I mean, like, look, 20 burn, 29 burn, and our core's cooldown is pretty high. So this is the awkward spot. When you have a silver core, when its cooldown is really high at 7 seconds, it does become a little bit hard to stack that burn. Skills aren't great. I think I prefer to go to Kev's Armory. We can get just a crazy bullshit enchant here. I'm not going to re-roll here though, because it is really expensive. Alright, so now we upgrade Plasma Grenade. Like, Battery is another option, but not really that great compared to just having a Hologen ammo. And yeah, this is the slight misplay, is not having, we don't want another friend on the board though, do we? Because we want Pulse Rifle to have its multicast. Alright, well, let's go to Barkham, see what we find. A drill is good. Okay, cool. Well, now we know what we can replace. We can just stick you in here. You'll go off relatively often because of Plasma Grenade, Heavy Battery, Green Wasp. We've got a couple of items that are good here. And I think we just sell you two. I don't think you guys make it back. Not going to re-roll here though. There isn't really a lot else that we're looking for. Medium at silver or bronze. Obviously, you can't get power drill in the same shop, so... how much is left of my timer? Alright, say Relka. Grand Founder. Okay, dinos. Rex specs. We do have more items than it. They're going to get to destroy one item. We just kind of hope that it isn't the core. But they are getting a ton of shield. That's the thing. So, I don't know whether we win this. I think they just do too much damage. Yeah. It is... You know, I mean, the Bazaar is a crazy place. I mean, they say the line, you know. Sometimes it's just builds that we won't win against. We're not in a particularly amazing spot either. Toss Clocks is, I think, way too good to pass up. There are a lot of good items here. Power Sander is pretty good. I think I pick up Power Sander and re-roll here. Hamlet upgrade, thrusters. I think we go for a Hamlet upgrade. I think that's good. I don't think I want to pick up thrusters though. Although we could just sell Force Field and get it. Another Uwashiwali bird. Awesome. We'll get the thrusters. It is interesting on core if we get something like a Dino Saddle. Again, we're not looking really for medium items. We'll just get a small weapon here. Arc Blaster is actually a pretty good option because we do use tech items reasonably significantly. Now, Prince Marianus is kind of a counter for us because we do use items very often. So, I'm just thinking here, do we prefer... I think we prefer to have Hamlet here. It gives us more procs. This takes 6 slow procs to be fully charged, whereas this takes 4. Sorry. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I had to burp. Great. This is, for me, a really, really good encounter. I recommend... I mean, there are decent ones that you might take over it, like Prince Marianus if you have the opportunity. Just because, you know, he has a ticket and things like that. But we have great skills. We have ammo stash. We have gold. We have more money, a crow's nest. We have some reload, which can be really good on Dooley. Obviously, we've got Plasma Grenade, Uzi, something like an Atomic Lock. We have more ammo here. This is a lot of money as well. I mean, Cannonball... Probably not fantastic. Right, Eating Contest is really good here. We do love taking HP early. And we're not looking for a lot of medium and large items right now. So we'll come here and I think we'll take like the relatively budget ones. Now Cannonball, it seems nice on paper, but like it could replace battery, but I prefer to have the charge. I think we sell you. And we need to sell one more thing. I'm thinking it's maybe just Power Sander. I can't see that coming on the board if Green Wasp isn't on the board. So we'll just come here. We'll get the relatively budget ones because we want to have some money to spend in this last shop if we need to. Conflagration is really good. We love having a bit more scaling on the core. Now, friends... there aren't a lot of great friends we want to look for, especially since we have this sort of stuff. Like, you can build around, like, the bugs. But also, we've already seen a bargain today, so we want to sell these before. Now, I think I would honestly take Finn's Big Bite here, and we just get some more regen. Like 1,000 HP, 100 HP on day 4. We're going to have more HP than this pig. Alright, I'm feeling relatively good. We have Conflagration, tons of HP, which is a great counter to pig because he won't have something like Poison. But a Silk Scarf and a Spiky Shield and Crusher Claw. We need to stack up a lot of burn. The timing is going to be really good. The only way we even have a chance of winning this... Okay, we have a chance. Well, I think we have more than a chance. Just because he didn't kill us. He didn't have enough shield, basically, so... Spiky Shield didn't do enough damage. We managed to put enough burn on him. Man, I'm drinking this beautiful organic Shiraz. I don't know if it's unfiltered, but beautiful. Weapons isn't a bad shop. I think we'll come in here just to have a look.
My battle days are over, but my weapons crave.
I don't think it's pivot. I don't think we're running tech, and railgun isn't very good, unfortunately. We will take a power drill upgrade. It is kind of it's a relatively key part of our build. It can stay on the board for a long time if we get good upgrades on Plasma Row. So Andy is an amazing shot. We want lots of small items. Now Beta Ray isn't amazing unless we're running Freeze, and we don't have a Nitro Hammer or anything like that, so that's not really what we're looking for. And Friends, I think we'd prefer to have Pulse Rifle at the moment. That could change though. I think maybe... soon we'd prefer to have Pulse Rifle taken off and put Green Wasp and something else on, but I don't think any of these are options at the minute. Now Trash Down Mayor and Preening Duelist are good encounters, but I prefer Kyber Commander here. He has Gold, Insect Wings, he has Temple Expedition, he has Counter Strike. All of them are great options. Obviously these ones are a little bit of a miss, but I find that like proportionally, he tends to be a better encounter. You can see here, like when Hamlet goes off, we get so much charge and power draw. Because we get 2 instances of burn, and we get to slow 4 items. Beautiful. Temple Expedition ticket. It's maybe the best get there. And small and large items. Small's good, but we have no money, so we wouldn't be able to reroll you really. So I think I'm happy with just doing that. We don't have a lot of money, and silver tier loot typically isn't that great, so we'll just come here and sell you. We're really holding on. Well, we're not really holding on so much. I thought I still had that insect wing. Mattel. Lost crate. Like, we just don't really care about medium items, and I don't think we can get scrap today. We'll come here to the lost crate. Let's get a medium item for some econ. Z-sword. I mean, I don't think we put it on the board, but it's, you know, it's a good item to sell, I guess. We're just waiting for a small friend. We've got enough room in our inventory. Let's get into this fight. And then I gotta take a break and make my okonomiyaki. Make my dinner and eat it, and then I'll come back and I'll finish this. Take a little break. Now, 2 out of 4 isn't bad so far. This is looking a bit rough. How much cooldown does he get? However, the good thing is that Lifesteal doesn't cleanse. While he does heal, he has so much slow on him, the carpet's not going to be going very quick. Exactly. So he has, what, 3 guaranteed crits? Which, you know, he's got a 3-second cooldown on the carpet, but it's also, like, slowed a ton. Obsidian Excavation Tools is a pretty cool item, though. Now, I used to be a big preacher of golden income. I mean, I think it's still pretty good. Light bulb tech, it's good. I think Venomander can go. We're not running dinosaurs. Let's get a light bulb. It's like, it's free money. Well, it's not free money actually, but we can just sell stuff if we don't want it, which we don't. See, Pylon is really good. I would replace Pulse Rifle and probably Uzi. It's expensive, but I think it's worth it. We get a ton of haste, a ton of charge on power draw. Alright, we're going to sell you. I don't think Pulse Rifle is ever making it back either. So let's do this. Let's get our pylon. And Uzi's going to come off. So now, when you go off, we're getting a ton of procs. And it's a pretty quick, large item. What are we going to be using our upgrade on? It's either going to be Plasma Grenade or it's going to be Ignition Core. We'd love to replace Heavy Battery with like a Crew Tools at this point. Oh, don't have any money. We would like to reroll here. And we do have some stuff to sell. I think an Arc Blaster could probably go. Okay. We're really just searching. It's called Crew Tools. That's what it's called. Foundation Weeper has a ticket. We already have one. We don't need aggressive. I think we'd prefer to just come here. They do have, you know, we could have poison on the board eventually. There's a lot of good money items here as well. I did say I'd take a break, but I didn't. I need to remember to do it after this fight. I'm in the flow. But see, this is what I mean. See how fast we go? Feels really good, right? It looks good. I mean, you know, it feels good for me. It looks good from your perspective. Alright, well. Be back in a second. Alright, Okonomiyaki has been absolutely devoured and we're back. So. About our level up. It's either Plasma Grenade or Ignition Core. Like, I don't mind having an extra ammo. I feel like Ignition Core, this is where our damage is coming from, right? Like, I think we want Ignition Core upgraded. Care about you. We'd love to see. Yeah, okay. So decision has been made for us, basically. We'll sell you. I'm more interested in keeping the other items. And now we know exactly what's getting upgraded. It's definitely going to be the Ignition Core. I mean, it just doubles our scaling to 4. And then, I mean, at Diamond, it doubles again. So, haste items, Aerodrome. We already have a ticket. We don't need to go to Aerodrome. Now, we don't have a lot of money. So, we'll come to Kronos, but we'll come here a bit reluctantly. Obviously, Plasma Grenade is a really good enchant, but it's like 8 gold for a reroll. So, unfortunately, we can't afford that. If we had loads of money, I'd love to reroll. Now, a pick enchant that hasn't won at all and doesn't have their death enchant yet, that's... look, I don't want to... I'll wait. Typically, it's good. I won't wait. I've got a wooden desk. I can knock on wood. What am I looking at here? Silk Scarf, Luxury Cures. It's not a lot of shield. And it's not a lot of burn. And we're going to be slowing down items a ton. Beautiful. Yeah. Like, it's just so much burn, right? Like, 200 burn. Run out of Plasma Grenade. I think it was obviously a godsend that we got both. I think even without the upgrades on either one, maybe we win that. But, obviously, made some really significant upgrades on day 6, so we're feeling very good about that. Now, Andy, we love small items. I think a Metronome or Crew Tools is good. Now, Omega Ray is great. I think I'd rather have an Omega Ray over a battery. Maybe. I think it's worth holding on just as like a little hedge item. It does improve the scaling of our Ignition Core a bit. We've got the Uzi as well. This does mean we can't spend a lot of money. But I think these are worthwhile upgrades. We'll just get an item. We don't have enough money for either of them. Soldering Gun is like okay. Now, Radiant Corsair I don't think we beat. We just don't have enough defense, basically. If we had defense, I wouldn't mind, because we have, you know, scaling burn. But eventually we do run out of Plasma Grenades, so maybe I'd be a little bit more conservative anyway. We'll just come here to Joyful Jack. Equivalent Exchange could, like, maybe be relevant eventually, but I don't really see it. Like, I don't know whether we'd ever take a Poison enchant, unless we were, like, forced to. I mean, just look at the rate the Plasma Grenade is going off, right? It goes off so quickly. So, I mean, maybe, like, give me a Poppy Fuel for some money? I mean, Extract, it's still money, so I'm not necessarily angry at that. Forja, oh, Ignition Core upgrade again. I mean, it's definitely Ignition Core. There isn't really another choice. Like, it doubles its scaling again. It goes to 8 burn, which is phenomenal. And its cooldown gets lowered. So, we'll go for Malifang. We do burn a lot. Conflagration, I don't think it's as relevant anymore. We have so much scaling on you now. First time we use an item, which is what, 4 seconds in? Haste 2 burn items. Like, you go off instantly anyway. I don't think we need it. Yeah, Frostfire, much better. Would love to see freeze. It's obviously an extra proc for power drill. I don't think it's a freeze pivot. We've got a pretty good build locked in already. We just want to search for upgrades. Plasma rifle is interesting, admittedly. But I think what we got going on here is better. There's no need for us to sell anything. We only need one slot to get our small friend. Roosters.
I may be young for a captain, but I've seen my share of storms.
Keg builds, pretty scary. What am I looking at here? Anglerfish is going to be a lot of slow on itself. Wow, Robot 1 combo is kind of nuts, huh? That's a lot of charge. It's a lot of slow. They got a much faster start than us. I mean, but what I'm seeing is our burn is rapidly overtaking theirs, and we have the damage of power drill. This pylon card is actually, like, it's obvious. Look, it takes up a lot of room, but it's working particularly well on this build since we have a power drill. If we didn't have the power drill, it might not be worth taking it. Only reason I go to Kev's Armory is for some crazy shield enchant. I'm not really interested in either of you, honestly. I mean, take me there, I guess. I don't really care for a small shield item. Or a small non-weapon item, sorry. We'll re-roll. We have a lot of stuff to sell. Shielded Race Call. It's not Shielded Race Call. We don't have any roster items. Give me JJ. Just looking for upgrades for our board, really, and that's it. Okay. We would love to get, like, ammo as a loot item. Oasis Guardian. We do have a couple of non-weapon items. We wouldn't mind Waters of Infinity. That's like 80 regen. I don't think there's a lot of other items we like. I mean, just look at the amount of burn, right? It's on 60, it's on 69, it's on 77. Like, it just keeps going. It's pretty lovely to look at, in all honesty. Okay. That's okay. I mean, look, we're not rich, but like, what upgrade do we want? Not much, really. I think I prefer to go to Kina. Just have a look around. Don't think I care for silver tier friends, in all honesty. And I don't think I care for any of this either. Now, silver tier loot item, tool. I think we'll just go for loot here. Not really great options. Vial of Blood. Yeah, great pickup. You know, just get some extra XP. Let's sell you as well. Small tool and transform, not interested in. Give me beautiful. Okay, now we got to go for even longer, basically. It's going to be a lot of burn. Ooh, hologram projector. Now, it might be worth replacing heavy battery. It is it is a slightly slower start. But we get... I'm just thinking, what do we replace? Because I think the way that it works is that it still gains the ammo of the item. So we're okay on that front. Let's go for... We need to sell some stuff because I do want to get it. I think it's interesting. I think Uzi isn't making it on. So let's sell Uzi. And then we can sell Green Wasp and sell something else. I think it's probably Soldering Gun. I don't think that's ever getting used. Let's grab you. And now what are we up against? Because I think based on what we're looking at, a Vanessa, reasonably strong, same sort of win rate as us. I mean, just the chance of getting another plasma grenade, I think is worth it. And like, honestly, am I crazy for doing this? We just get double plasma grenade, get a ton of charge and haste. I think I want to do this. Call me crazy, but then we just, what, stick you in here? Get some lower cooldown going? Alright, let's try it. It obviously reduces like our active item pool by a little bit. But against a Vanessa, we're not really worried about freeze. So, okay, Sea Dog Saloon, 6 second starts, 5 seconds, 5 seconds. Oh. Didn't really think about that one fully, did I? Okay. 60 burn. Please just slow all their items so they never get to go off. Okay. That was a big misplay. I can't lie to you. I think we definitely win that with 2 plasma grenades. Okay, awesome. That's a shame. Well, now we get to go Temple Expedition. We have to pass up on loot, but that's fine. I think we should be completely fine on Path of Obsidian, and we just go for... Let's take you out. I want to see how this works against something that has a ton of small items. Alright. I mean, it feels really good, right? Like, that's a ton of haste and charge. Like, power drill is just basically infinite. Okay, cool. Get some XP. Cooldown, sure. It's not a lot of cooldown, but it's worth something. Okay, well, haste is amazing. That's just on plasma grenade. And that means what? Pylon can go. Haste on plasma grenade. So now, what that does is it hastes all of our items for 5 seconds. So now, what our board looks like is something like this. Then, stick you here. Okay. I think this is what our board looks like. Because Pylon isn't as good now. We'll go Greenheart Guardian. We don't get shield, but we could. We wouldn't mind reducing the cooldown of our weapons a little bit. Alright. Loads are slow. I mean, double Hamlet is honestly a great pull as well, right? This feels amazing. Gets a teeny tiny bit more scaling on Ignition Core, which is nice. We don't care about having Turbo Plasma adjacent to Omega Ray, because, like, that's just burn on ourselves, so who cares? Right, Obsidian. I mean, I feel maybe we just go for an aggressive look, because, like, we missed our shield or heal enchant, so putting it on the core just means we get to play, like, an aggressive line, I guess. So we stick it on you. We don't get to get our music for a little bit. Back now. Alright, it's a strong Vanessa, but I feel pretty good about where our build is at.
Go ahead. Underestimate. It makes this more fun.
Alright, Radiant Flamethrower. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but he does have Bonk and Trained. Oh. So it's a lot of burn. We do start slower. Like, the holsters is just unreal. Holsters... Yeah, I mean, it's all the holsters, right? We almost got there. One more proc and we kill, but it's literally a holsters diff. I mean, what can I say? Shot glasses get to go instantly. Double shot glasses as well. Okay, well now if we get heal or shield, we probably replace you. We don't. Burn on power drill is actually really good here because we get some scaling with Omega Ray. What's the thrusters burn enchant, I wonder? Thrusters... can I type thrusters, please? First time you fall below half health, burn 6. Yeah, that sounds really good to me, actually. Alright. Look, I think we make it to a silver victory. I mean, we missed out on our shield and heal enchants, but we still have a really good board. Yeah, I'm not interested in any of you, though. I think thrusters gets replaced, though. That's the only thing I'm thinking about replacing. Now, scrap metal upgrade could be really good. If we upgrade that, we get a second less on the core. And, like, it's still a 5-second core, which does kind of suck, because this is our damage dealer, right? Boss Harrow. I think Boss Harrow is a great fight here. Morgoloth doesn't really have any skills for us. Or items, really. We wouldn't mind crit. We wouldn't mind Assault Focus. Interesting. So this doesn't actually gain the vehicle tag when it... Huh. Interesting. Say, I don't think we're slow enough for that to be relevant. Then Pylon can go as well. So I think we do look to upgrade police skills. We can get the we do only have one friend. So there's a lot of good core related skills we can go for here. I mean, Burning Shield is phenomenal actually. I think what we're missing is defense, so I'm not mad at that at all. Ultron, not really built for that. Not really built for Alpha Ray or any of these items either.
Bare hands are not enough.
JJ, we're just searching for upgrades and stuff mostly. Dino Saddle is interesting, actually. What would we replace here? Like you? And then hologram projector, I guess? And we just last with this, we give our core. I think this is probably the line. I mean, doubling our damage and effectively doubling our scaling is absolutely insane. It would be nice to have an upgraded thruster, but you can't have everything. We are versing some really strong builds, I can't lie, and they all have really quick starting times, which really sucks. Sea Dog Saloon. Okay, no. Okay, but they do have Juggler. Like, come on, man. Okay, we get to go before... Okay, see, the Dino Saddle is a real good upgrade. I mean, this build wasn't as strong as the last one, but Barnacle Crusted as well, damn. We're versing some strong Vanessas. Okay, day 11, it's starting to get late game. We need to become broken somehow. It is kind of what we're looking for. Shielded Arc Blaster definitely isn't what we're looking for. Neither is Shielded Temporal Navigator. The small item upgrades is something that we're looking for. Okay, crew tools. Fiber optics. Maybe we can move you over here. Put fiber optics in instead of Hamlet. We get a bunch of charge on the core. Sell Jitte, sell Fireflies, but then again, we could also do something like this, make it a 3-second core, and then we also get to take Dino Saddle out, but then what do we replace it with? We don't actually have a lot of non-tech items. I think I'd prefer it this way.
Excellent choice.
Still battery? Is it still battery or is it Hamlet? Hamlet's gonna give us way more charge, I think. Yeah, let's do it this way. Okay. And then like we're looking to upgrade Sky Metal anyway. Crypto, we got plenty of money. Probably should get that, but Volks and Force, so we do a ton of damage, but we don't have a lot of survivability. We do have a tool. I actually want to go here. Like retool would be pretty great, honestly. So the only thing that sucks is our startup. Like our core goes first. I mean, look, it is a bot, but that felt real quick. Obviously, Fire Power Drill is going super quickly, so Fiber Optics is absolutely insane. Satcom, we're never going to be using that friend. Temple Expedition Ticket can also go. Okay, Reflector. We'll go for a loot item. Great, yeah, I want to upgrade thrusters here. Let's give ourselves some more cooldown reduction on the floor. Absolutely. 4.4 now. Brill. So that's got to go down to 3.4. Because I know I want to upgrade. Look, it's either Fiber Optics to get more charge, because it gives us an extra second, or we just reduce it by a second, which I think is better. It gives us a quicker startup, more charge on like Power Drill early. Don't think I'm interested in large items at all. Okay, we get one anyway. It's good for the buy sell. Ooh, oh, heal. I think heal is better than damage. Like, I hate to replace it, but like, what else here gets heal? Hamlet doesn't scale. I think it has to be on Ignition Core. I think the heal is so much better, and we just rely on doing damage instead through our burn, because we already have a ton of scaling. So this gives us a bunch of cleanse. It makes us go for longer. We are a nice aggressive build. Okay. Naraku. The only thing that is a little bit iffy is our startup, because the core obviously goes first. It's Sea Dog Saloon again. Any holsters? No holsters. So 4-second startup. So we are going to go like relatively the same time. The big freeze on Sea Dog Saloon, actually. Yeah.
You've got talent.
I mean, he'll just
You
feel
should
so
put
much
it to a
better. Like,
nobler use.
1,300? Like, how much cleanse is that? Right? Like, all that burn is just going away, and all that damage is going away very quickly. So, even with a rough start, we managed to generate, you know, 7 win. And that's, I guess that's kind of my borderline for the videos. I wanted to make a build that was good enough to show. It didn't necessarily need to be a 10 win. Like, I'm trying to make a guide video. I'm trying to be informative. So it's not necessarily about making the coolest build or anything like that. It's about, you know, being informative. Yeah, do we beat Frost Tree Champion or do we just lose? I feel like we don't burn them enough and we just die. Let's just go Trash Titan. We never use a large item, so Juggler isn't really interesting, but I don't think I'm interested in anything else. So next thing, so we want to get Scrap Metal upgraded. We'd love to reduce the cooldown of the core. I don't know if it makes it infinite, who knows, but we get really, really close. And Amanda, cool. So now, let's get a second taken off. Now, I don't know, is Fiber Optics better? I think I'd prefer to just take a second off the cooldown, because if Fiery Power Drill gets broken, and we don't get that charge, now at least, scammed me out of 0.1 of a second? Okay. I mean, the thing is now, right, is that we could take, you know, our tech out and do this. Do something like this. Now it's 2.9 seconds, but we're already at 3.5 with multicast, right? So I feel like this is slightly better. Okay, Monster Ranch loot items are great. Curio might have been better. Well, actually no, Gunpowder's great. Now we just get to go for longer, right? We got that sustain now because we're gonna be getting a bunch of heal from you. Tools. Not really sure what we'd be looking for here, but we'll have a look. Of course, we will have a look. It's all Vanessa's. So now we're getting into scary Vanessa territory though, because we could be seeing keg stuff, which grows ridiculously quickly. But again, it's a Sea Dog Saloon with Juggler. I'm not crazy, right? Alright, Clamor gives them a nice quick start. Yeah, this is a real slow start. Let's just see how well our heal works, huh? Our heal works extremely well. Like, obviously it doesn't purge everything, but I mean, look, it's definitely due to the offense that we won that. You know, 1,000 burn and they didn't really have a lot of defense. It was just Mr. Richardson. No heal to purge anything. But we'll take what we can get. I think, you know, we're getting to the, you know, big leagues. We'll eventually just run into something like a keg build that'll just screw us, you know. But, you know, we're not necessarily angry at that. It could be worse. So our thing is just our startup time, right? We take way too slow to start up. As long as we aren't hindered too much though, like 1,200 burn, I don't think it's even been 10 seconds. We do go really quickly. Hasten charge isn't bad, but like burn haste could maybe get us there. I think we prefer to try and take a high roll here though.
At last, here you are.
Don't care about any of you. We don't poison. Don't really care about crit on just our weapons. Let's just take a keen eye.
You are a quick study.
I don't know. Still prefer to take this. Try and get retooled at least. It'd be nice to try and get another dupe of thrusters, honestly. I'd probably get rid of Hamlet and just put it on Fiery Power Drill. That could be really fun. Or on Plasma Grenade. That'd be crazy. Oh, wait. The game's dying.
If I mix the sulfur with the copper resin.
I don't know whether Restorative or Shielded is the best enchant. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. We'll see. I think I like Restorative just because of the cleanse, but obviously Shield is just so good for I don't know, protecting against burn initially, and then also just like being able to gain stupid amounts of health. So it's all good. Would have been nice to reach level 15. It's another Vanessa. It's a legend. I have a distinct feeling that we're gonna run into a keg build. Ready-made 7. This is like the whole survivorship bias, because basically, you know, only strong builds get to this point, right? So eventually we'll start seeing some of those really strong builds. Sitting the boulder, silencer, star chart. Instant boulder? What is it? Yeah, it's gonna kill us. Obsidian the boulder. Real quick. Holsters, dive weights. Ace the weapon for 3 seconds. Yeah. Yeah, well look, 8 wins, it's not terrible. Obviously we had a little bit of an unfortunate run early on. And you know what, we came up against some strong builds, but that's not what this video or this run was about. It was about trying to inform you of my decision making, and we did drop because of that actually. And I think this is an interesting build. You know, Dino Saddle, put it on the restorative core, give it, you know, some multicast. I think it's really fun. And hey, I'll probably do a little bit of an outro after this, so I won't bother you with the rest of the details. So guys, that was my Dooley guide. I hope you enjoyed. It is, you know, for all of my experts out there, you know, this isn't made for my top 100 players, for my top 366 players, you know, who are all better than me. But, you know, maybe it's for the players below me, you know, give them some advice. But hey, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got some useful information out of this. I hope you know how to play Dooley a little bit better. And without further ado, please like, please subscribe, please drop a comment down below. It really helps so much. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.